Consciousness Series Episode 3, The Illusion of the Self. The search for the self, the mysterious I behind our thoughts, memories, and feelings, has captivated philosophers, scientists, and spiritual seekers for millennia. We feel as if there's a stable, unchanging me at the center of our experience. But modern research in neuroscience, psychology, and philosophy increasingly suggests that the self may be an illusion, a powerful, useful construct, but not a thing that exists in the way we intuitively believe. The intuitive sense of self. Most people instinctively feel there is a self, a continuous identity that persists from childhood to old age. The inner narrator or observer of life's events, the center of agency, decision-making, and experience. This sense of self seems so obvious that we rarely question it. Yet, when we dig deeper, philosophically or scientifically, the picture grows more complex. The self in philosophy. Ancient and Eastern views. Buddhism. One of Buddhism's core teachings is anatta, or no self. The Buddha taught that the self is not a permanent entity, but a collection of changing physical and mental processes. Hume. Philosopher David Hume in the 18th century famously wrote that when he looked inward, he found only fleeting perceptions, no core self. The bundle theory. Many philosophers now describe the self as a bundle of sensations, thoughts, memories, and desires, rather than a single unchanging entity. The self in neuroscience. The brain's construction of self. Modern neuroscience has failed to find a single self-center in the brain. Instead, it points to distributed networks responsible for various aspects of self. The default mode network, DMN, active when we reflect on ourselves, imagine the future, or recall the past. Parietal and frontal lobes, involved in self-recognition and distinguishing self from others. Temporal lobe, linked to autobiographical memory and personal identity. Split brain experiments. In the 1960s, scientists studying patients with their brain hemispheres surgically separated to treat epilepsy made a startling discovery. Each hemisphere could operate independently with its own perceptions and intentions, sometimes even providing contradictory answers. This suggested that the self could be divided, challenging the idea of a single unified I. The modular mind. Psychologists like Marvin Minsky have described the mind as a society of semi-independent modules, different processes handling language, vision, emotion, and more, coordinated but not governed by a central self. The illusion revealed. Psychological evidence. The narrative self. Our brains construct a narrative self, a story that ties together our memories, values, and goals. Yet this story is often inconsistent, edited, or even invented in hindsight. Change blindness and false memories. Experiments show that people often fail to notice major changes in their environment, change blindness, and can be easily led to form false memories, demonstrating how malleable and fallible our sense of self and memory can be. The sense of agency. Our experience of making choices and initiating actions, the sense of agency, can be manipulated. In some experiments, electrical stimulation of the brain can make people feel they decided to move when, in fact, they did not. Clinical and meditative insights. Depersonalization. Some psychiatric conditions produce a sense of detachment from the self, as if observing one's life from outside. Meditation. Advanced meditation practitioners often report a diminished sense of self, or even a direct experience of no self, aligning with ancient Buddhist teachings. Why does the self-illusion exist? The illusion of the self serves important functions. Social cohesion. A stable self helps us form relationships, take responsibility, and navigate society. Survival. Agency and personal identity help us predict and respond to threats, plan for the future, and pursue goals. The self in everyday life. Although the self may be an illusion, it is a useful illusion. It organizes our experiences, enables moral reasoning, and gives coherence to our lives. Recognizing its illusory nature doesn't undermine its psychological or social importance, but it does invite us to question the boundaries of who and what we really are. The ongoing puzzle. Despite mounting evidence that the self is constructed, not discovered, deep questions remain. How does the brain generate such a convincing sense of self? Could artificial intelligence ever develop a sense of self? What happens to the self in altered states, brain injury, or deep meditation? Conclusion. The self feels like the most real thing we know. Yet, science and philosophy increasingly argue that it is a story woven by the brain, a narrative, a bundle, an emergent property, but not a solid, unchanging core. This realization, rather than diminishing us, can lead to greater understanding, compassion, and freedom from rigid self-concepts. The journey to understand the self, illusion or not, remains at the heart of unraveling the nature of consciousness itself.